All right, thank you so much for staying with Daybreak. We're still discussing the BBI proposal. I see a lot of your feedback here. Let me try and sneak in a few of them really fast. Engineer Lazaro says, if expanding the executive would solve the issue of bloody violence, malicious damages after every election, then let it be. Handouts, not our priority at this moment. We just want peaceful atmosphere for our small businesses to go on. And this is a tweet from Senator Aaron Cheruiyot. I think this was about yesterday. To the visitors in Kenya, please do note that this is not the first, second, or even third attempt by Raila Odinga to launch a presidential bid in the pretext of a constitutional moment. The results of each bid are in our history books. Now set your sails accordingly. Cheruiyot will explain to us what that meant. And then Senator Ledama Olekina says the BBI report proposes a weak Senate, introduces unnecessary political positions. The task force ignored the views of the Maa community as well as other marginalized communities. I encourage everyone to read the report. We have Jacob Abere, who says this BBI report is good as rose flowers to bees, but likes of Cheruiyot and Akalwale see it has 3 people's jobs. I urge citizens to have deeper conversation without the political mirror. And Cheruiyot, that's where we begin with. So now there's also a proposal to increase the MPs from 349 to 360. And at the end of this whole conversation, I'll ask each and every one of you to decide if the question is posed to adopt the BBI report as is. Would you say yes or no? But that is at the end of it. Cheruiyot, increasing members of parliament, 349 to 360. Senators, 67 to 94. Do you need support in the Senate so that there are 2 of you in each county?
First of all, that really undermines devolution. Let me begin with the Senate, where you have 2 senators, one being a man and the other being a woman, elected in every county. That greatly undermines devolution and how decisions of a Senate are made. What will be the different duty that each of the 2 senators will be doing? Are we just simply filling up the House so that we can achieve the elusive 2/3 gender rule? Or do we have a Senate that actually isn't it our desire to have a Senate that is strong, that is protective of our devolved units and ensures that there's prosperity at the county level, instead of giving additional responsibilities and trying and improve on Senate? This document greatly weakens Senate. It affects and tinkers greatly with the structure of devolution by ensuring that now at a single county, how does it work? For example, Kimani Wamatangi is senator for Kiambu, and then you're told there's another senator of the opposite gender. You know, who gets the responsibility of addressing the challenges that are in that particular county? A decision, one of the greatest foundational principles of the Senate is that all counties carry an equal vote. Be it Lamu that has 2 constituencies and hardly a 250,000 voters, or Kiambu that has 11 or is it 12 Wamatangi constituencies with close to 4 million representatives. They all carry 1 vote in the Senate. And that is the strength of devolution and our devolved units, trying to ensure that there is equality of each and everyone. But now, when you dilute that vote and want to give each and every county 2 votes, you're beginning to weaken the structure. Number 2, counties vote by delegation. That is if, for example, a county like Nairobi, which has about 4, 5, or 6 nominated senators from it, the leader of that delegation is the elected senator. And he gives his directions on who can vote on what particular matter. He issues them in writing to the speaker. Now, when you have two senators elected, I know it has repealed Article 123, and that is another big problem that many of us who are thinking about it and have worked in the Senate for the last 2 terms know how important that particular clause is. That every time there are difficulties in the Senate, something that doesn't carry the aspirations of Kenya as a republic, one of the places where successive regimes have found it difficult to try and push and pull things is achieving that elusive 24 delegations. And this is heavily borrowed from the United States, where we borrow our practices of democracy heavily in the current constitution, voting by delegation. Therefore, this proposal to me absolutely doesn't make sense. If you wanted to achieve if you wanted to achieve the 2/3 in the Senate, then perhaps you would have increased on the number of the nominated people and ensure that parties grant their tickets to more women and support them. By the way, Trevor, the Senate as it currently is only one woman senator short of achieving the 2/3 gender principle. So this issue wasn't so huge in the Senate as it is in the National Assembly. We would have found mechanisms of easily addressing it. But let me address myself to something very important. Don't just reduce it to increasing numbers.
But what about the National Assembly? Because then also there's a proposal to increase them from 349 to 360.
Yeah, that also actually that's what I wanted to come to. This is
very briefly.
Under amendment clause number 11 of this of the constitutional amendment bill that was issued alongside the report, and I urge people to read. You know, I hear people want us to paint all of us with one brush, that because I know who Halwale and Cheruyot support in the presidential election, I'll hear nothing of it. By the way, let me tell you, Kenya belongs to all of us. If you want to have a progressive discussion that is good for Kenya, there are three gentlemen that whose filters and shadows you need to remove out of every discussion about BBI. Raila Odinga, Uhuru Kenyatta, and William Ruto. Get them, forget about them for once, and think about yourself as an individual, and think about Kenya as a country, imagining that none of those gentlemen exist in our politics. That will help you appreciate that while you may not agree with everything that Boni Halwale says, just the fact that he supports the deputy president doesn't mean he's wrong, or you switch to Professor Jacqueline. The fact that she supports Prime Minister Odinga, don't be dismissive of everything that she says and says, these Odinga people, we don't agree with them. That's a political, we've got to mature in our politics. Anyway, amendment number 11 is something that I want to urge the minority communities in Kenya to read, and read clearly. Because it proposes, this is the amendment that proposes that addition of movement of numbers from 290 constituencies to 360, each elected by registered voters from the 290 constituencies constituting single and multiple member constituencies. The devil is in the details, as they always say. And you've got to move further, where it says that in clause 3 of that amendment, that the determination of constituencies for the seats under clause 1A, now that one of 360, shall comply with articles 81D. 81D of our constitution is what speaks about universal suffrage, and that every single Kenyan has a single vote. So that is fair enough. But 89.7, Article 89 of our constitution speaks about electoral units and how IEBC is going to arrive at what are the demarcations of a single constituency. This appears to be picking only one of the elements that IEBC is supposed to consider, which is the fact that they'll try and make every constituency as equal in terms of numbers as possible. That is a principle, it's almost reflective of the debate that we had in the Senate a few months ago, where certain people felt that population should be our only consideration. Those of us that are lucky, Senator Boni Halwale, Kimani Wamatangi, myself, even Prof that you have on this panel, where we come from regions that are densely populated, perhaps we didn't have a problem with this provision. But to our brothers and sisters that come from minority communities, you've got to think clearly about what proposals will you make to ensure that this does not take away certain constituencies from you, or deny you a chance to get even a single MP from the 70, what I would consider virtual constituencies, because 290 as a number remains, but there'll be a number of 70, which now this amendment proposes that only the commission, that is IBC, be guided by only clause 89.7 of our constitution. That is very dangerous in my humble view. It is not good for Kenya.
Let me bring in Dr. Halwale on this. Dr. Halwale, what is your view on this? Senators increased from 67 to 94, MPs 349 to 360. Good idea or bad idea?
Yes, my good friend Aaron has given a good account of the salient issues. But there's something is left out which must be pointed out. Namely, the cost of running government. The moment we expand these leaders as we've got to pay them.
Yeah.
It's going to cost money. Now, dear Kenyans, I want to take you to the US.
Yeah.
The United States of America is the largest economy in the world. The United States of America has got a population of over 300 million people. And yet, you find that in the US, they have got only 100 senators. So us, who do not have an economy even equal to only one state in the US,
yeah,
we now want to have more leaders than the US. Is it worth it? I want to say no. Because if the issue at hand is to address the challenges facing our youth,
yeah,
then creating these extra jobs for people like I to become senators and all other man of leaders does not speak to the 6 million Kenyans who have good education, young people, and are unemployed. Secondly, the timing of that decision,
yeah,
coming soon after the COVID-19 disaster, our concern should not be creating these jobs for these old people,
yeah,
or mature people. It should be the 1.7 million jobs that were lost through COVID. Number two,
yeah,
the virtual constituencies that will come when we top up from 290 to 360.
Yeah.
Where are they going to come from? According to Raila and Uhuru, they should come from the most populous constituencies.
So some constituencies may have up to 2 members of parliament.
Exactly. What we want all the Mijikenda to know, all the Masai to know, all the Turkana to know, all the Rindile to know, all of you Somalis, what you must know is that these 70 MPs will come from the most populous communities. Because we are the ones who have got the populous constituencies.
Yeah.
I see a situation whereby Malaba constituency in Kakamega, for example, will have 3 constituencies. That MP will never come from Lamu. That MP will never come from Laisamis and so on.
Yeah.
So you should be ready for it.
Okay.
Now we are going to have the tyranny of tribes if we allow this kind of nonsense to go on.
Okay.
Thirdly, in identifying these leaders, we will need a commission. This draft is proposing that as soon as we get it through,
yeah,
the current commissioners in the IEBC should go home.
They'll be vetted in 30 days.
Yes.
They didn't say they should go home. They'll
Okay.
be vetted
They'll
in 30
be vetted
days,
in
whether
30
they are
days.
good to stay or not.
Let's put it more accurately.
And given 3-year contracts.
Exactly.
Yes.
But we know the intention of that is to get rid of the current IEBC commissioners and put in the kind of commissioners who would serve their purpose. Now, be that as it may, Kenyans must know that a credible commission led by a credible son of the world called Commissioner Grigla did a thorough job on this issue and found that if we must avoid post-election violence,
yeah,
we must have in office a commission that is competitively sourced.
yeah,
And that commission should be identified at least 2 years before the general election. So now, we now want to bring in a commission too late in the day.
yeah,
We want to bring in a commission that is not competitively sourced. They want political parties to now have a majority in the number of commissioners recommended to be in IEBC. It is tantamount to being in a game where the ref and the match commissioners are decided by your competitors. This is a recipe for post-election violence.
okay. Let's bring in Professor Jacqueline Oduor on this. What do you think, Prof? Is it fair to increase the number of senators and MPs?
I think, Trevor, what I would say is that we must acknowledge that leaders make meaning of challenges, and what they seek and must continue to do is to come up with solutions. We might find as we go along that the solutions might have challenges, but that is not to say that we dismiss the purpose. I would like to speak specifically to the issue that was raised by Senator Cheriot and in a way by Dr. Halwale. When we look at the National Assembly currently, there is a sense in which nominated members, such as myself, have the right and really perform all duties as members of parliament. I can vote. My colleagues in the Senate, however, who, as Senator Cheriot say, are just one woman short, do not have that authority or opportunity to vote. And I see that when we look at the numbers, let us see that the overall goal in the current arrangement in Kenya, with underlying behavior that does not really stand for accountability, that does not stand for inclusion. We are looking at the numbers, and we really would want to say that the cost of corruption, in my view, in this country, which has tended to become normalized, is definitely much higher than the cost of expanding or increasing the numbers of members of parliament. I would also want to add, just as Kenyans, as leaders, when we're thinking about representation, which is what we want to see in parliament, we need to distinguish between equity and equality. I think it is not right that we rouse emotions and get areas that in Kenya, by their population or some other factor, could be seen to be different. We would want to acknowledge when we are looking for equity, such as we might see when we now look at the additional 76 and the criteria that we use to address aspects of equity.
Yeah.
And remember that our constitution indicates that all of us are equal. And so, Trevor, what I would want to say on this matter is to urge Kenyans to look squarely in the face. The problem that we have in this country is that there are matters that we do not speak about. And the elephant in the room is corruption, which really comes from a sense where there are no values, where to a large extent we even choose leaders that we do know by their very own pronouncements or agendas do not necessarily adhere to Chapter 6 of the Constitution. We do not, as a matter of fact, as Kenyans, look at the way that corruption is really taking on so much money and depriving us of a chance to engage in service. We do not acknowledge that when you have a Senate where you have 18 women who are nominated, that they would be in that house, but would not have, as Senator Cheriot was indicating, the opportunity to vote or to indeed make some useful input in terms of legislation as members of parliament.
Okay.
And therefore, I think I would say that when I compare the kind of challenges that we face when we look at exclusion, particularly in Senate, for example, where we now have more women nominated than elected, I think it does not really create such a big challenge if those women can now come in as elected.
Okay.
I think I would say that there is nothing that dilutes the Senate because you now have a woman who is elected. I really believe that what BBI has tried to do is to then indicate that we do not just hand over to women leadership without them going to the people and being elected. And I think that we really have to look at this from the context of a country that is completely and in a very, very sad way caught up in corruption and seeking to come out of it by weaving ways that we can step by step begin to solve the problem.
But Prof, isn't that duplication of roles, for example? Why should you have a female senator and a male senator representing the same county?
In a way, when I look, and I say this very humbly because I haven't sat in the Senate, although I must confess that is actually where my vision and goal had been. I think when I look at the Senate currently, there is a big challenge because the way that Senate runs right now is almost like doing the same duties as the National Assembly. I think one of the key things we see in BBI is that we would like, in a very specific way, to strengthen devolution and to give it more resources. I really believe when we look at what we have seen at the county, there is more work that can be done, not only by 2 senators, but if you had a mechanism of clearly appointing them, even 3. So I do not see that as a problem. I think the challenge is that maybe the male senators think the position is being diluted. I really don't think that's the issue.
We haven't heard from Wamatangi before I come to you, Cheriot. Wamatangi, very briefly.
Okay, maybe Wamatangi can help.
Sorry.
Wamatangi can help explain to Jacqueline that our nominated senators actually do vote. It is only on matters affecting counties, but in all the rest of the issues that we vote as a house, they do have a vote. Wamatangi needs to explain that.
Okay, Wamatangi.
But if you allow me, it is the matters affecting the county. Which one is called the senator?
Okay, one at a time. One at a time, please. Let's hear from Wamatangi.
I just wanted to adjust that. Thank you.
I think that you've explained very well, Senator Chariot. So. And I'm sure Professor has heard it. I don't need to re-explain it again. Trevor, just two points I would like to make. First, beginning from that question that you posed earlier on to the rest of my colleagues, does the expansion of the sitting members of both houses help to address the issues that we have or the problems that we have? And my thoughts, Trevor, one, I think we have to admit from some of these proposals that the two-thirds gender rule that we gave unto ourselves when we promulgated the Constitution in 2010 still remains a big issue that we have to deal with and we must find very proactive and fairly balanced methods to achieve this, because it's already in our laws, our supreme law of the land. And I believe by attempting to make these proposals to expand both houses of parliament, I think this is what we're trying to grapple with. Let's not forget, Trevor, as we discussed this morning, that on the president's table is a proposal, actually an advisory from the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, that parliament should be dissolved on account of this. And that just gives you some idea as to the enormity of the problem. However, I think there are a few things that are arising from this discussion that we need to deal with, so that we set the right thinking path on the way forward, Trevor. And I say this because, as we said from the beginning, I believe the discussion on these proposals now begins. And so it's in my view very important to set the right pace and to put things correctly. One, let me just take on something that was proposed by my good friend and colleague Senator Halwale, former Senator Kakamega, on the proposal of the creation of the extra positions in the National Assembly, especially the so-called, as Chirut said, virtual constituencies. And the question would be, are these positions going to come only from populous communities? Or is the mischief being addressed by this, or the problem addressed by this, is it just intended to create extra positions for populous counties? And I think my answer, which is backed by law, in my view, is no. You see, the Constitution itself has already set a threshold and methodology by creating quotas of what population sub-county or constituency, for that matter, should achieve. And as we stand right now, Trevor, so if we were to strictly apply the law as it is, some of the existing constituencies would stand to be dissolved, while the IEBC in our earlier or in our dispensation as it is, strictly to apply the law.
Yeah.
There are constituencies right now which have a right to petition IEBC other than the capping that exists in the Constitution on the 290 sub-counties or constituencies for that matter. There are constituencies that can veto or that can raise serious issues as to the number of voters in that particular constituency. And a good example is some of the constituencies in my own county. For example, you saw in the last population census, a sub-county like Roiro in my county has got almost 500,000 people. And a threshold of more than 270,000 voters. You'll be asking yourself, how does that compare with a sub-county with less than 50,000 voters? And so I believe that the issue that it intends to address is most principally relevant in representation, because that's a discussion that has been on Kenyans' mind when we get to amending the Constitution. We can't run away from this. If we did run away from it, then you're going to have another cross-cutting debate Trevor, which I believe will not bring in right now because maybe at another time we can. But remember when the division of revenue, the CARA in Senate was not passed, and counties would not get money. Part of the big discussion was on disbursement of funds and the equitable and equal sharing of resources based on per capita allocation.
Yeah.
How many members of the public are in one sub-county, and how much does that sub-county receive? So across that board, I believe that there's a lot of discussion.
Yeah.
If we can begin this debate now by asking how best can we address the question of representation.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if we say that only the populous counties will be gaining, it will not be true because some of the sub-counties, like for example in Northeastern, would stand dissolution.
Yeah.
Now, lastly, Trevor, I may want to also
very briefly
address, I may want to address a part of what was also addressed by my colleagues on what is the effect of, for example, the proposals that have not either addressed the question of the Senate in either strengthening it or giving it equal latitude in some of the proposals that have been further recommended in this proposal.
Yeah.
What I have on my mind is, if you look at the preamble of what this report says, they say that indeed from members of the public that there was overwhelming contribution that we should retain both houses of parliament. Indeed, the report goes on to propose that we increase allocation to counties up to 35%. In another part of this report, they even propose that there should be an amendment to the Constitution to ensure that there is focus on misuse of funds in county government. And then you have all those proposals, and you do not have also other proposals which back up the earlier ones by ensuring that the Senate is strengthened in a way that then it can carry out the role of oversight as envisaged in the Constitution. I believe that is one of the areas that we've missed, and part of what I'll be proposing in the discussion, Trevor, as we move on.
So let me
to make these recommendations better is in every part of the proposals that have suggested that this should be referred to the National Assembly, they should be referred to the Senate. There should be adopted one uniform proposal. Refer this to Parliament. Refer this to Parliament. Report this to Parliament. If we adapt, because the proposals to amend here also uphold the necessity to have legislation flowing between both houses. Whichever legislation, whether it is the division of revenue, whether it is the county allocation of revenue, they all flow between both houses. So let's not have then a further segregation that says then at the end of the process you can only refer to the National Assembly. If we adapt the model that it is Parliament that acts as proposed in the law, that every statute is referred to as an act of Parliament, because it means that it is both houses of Parliament that have acted to create that proposal. Then that way we are able to get
So the truth of the matter is we can't finish discussing the BBI this morning in one sitting, but a decision still has to be made. So Professor, I'll start with you. If the question was posed that as the BBI is, should it be adopted or not, what would you vote for and why?
I would vote yes, because my understanding is that I think I'd rather accept solutions that are presented for an immediate issue, such as how to deal with governance, ensure that there is inclusivity, attempt to begin to make some practical recommendations of how women will not just be people who are seen to be given leadership, but actually to go out and to look for it, and most importantly, to begin to address the issue of corruption and come up with functional placement of those who are in leadership in areas where they can be held accountable. I think I would say I would vote yes, not that it is a perfect document, but it is a good progress and stepping point from Constitution 2010.
Cheriot, all factors held constant, and I know you don't want the yes or no question, but a decision has to be made whether the document is good or bad, 80% good, 20% bad, or the other way around. What would you vote for given the opportunity now as is, and why?
You guys in the media, relax. The president has told us, improve on the document. Why are your editors in a hurry to get the country into a yes or no scenario?
A decision has to be made, Cheriot. I mean, the document is out now. We are discussing it. Is it good or is it bad?
The president has said, improve on the document. So why are we in a hurry to try and cast this? But there's something I want to address, Trevor, before even I give you an answer to that. The fact that this document heavily undermines devolution on two fronts. Number one, in amendment number 40 of this document that addresses itself to Article 177 that talks about our county assemblies. The fact we do not have the political culture, Trevor, and I keep on saying this, that some of these proposals make sense in countries that have matured democratically to a point that people have got the hygiene and the discipline to behave in a matter that is for the good of the people. When you give a political party the power to recall nominated or specially elected members of a county assembly, while you know what is happening, take an example of Jubilee, the party where I'm a member. Look at what the Murades and the Tujus of this world do to nominated members when they try to even impeach a corrupt governor who is aligned to the system. So you undermine the power of the county assemblies by including that provision. And also, Trevor, the 47th amendment of this amendment bill on the annual division of revenue bill, and this is something that Wamatangi I want you to read about clearly, takes away the equal power and the balance of power between the two houses and gives that strength of the determination. When there is a dispute between Senate and National Assembly, it gives the veto power to the National Assembly. That is so dangerous. In the last 8 years, we know what has been the position of the National Assembly with regards to funds being devolved to our counties, Trevor. And therefore, my proposal is, let us be given an opportunity to amend that which is wrong in this document before passing it.
So is that a no?
The answer is what I have told you at the beginning of the show. We are not yet there, Trevor. Hold your horses nice.
So, I know you really hate that question, Cheriot, but let's bring in Wamatangi on this. Wamatangi, what do you think? Wamatangi, I mean, it's an open discussion, so of course there's room for amendments.
I think it is an open...
Wamatangi, you know, there is a very good referendum bill that is before Justice and Legal Affairs Committee of the National Assembly. It even provides for county-based referenda, where as a county, say Kericho, for example, you want to make a certain decision that affects only we as a people. We are given that platform. So we need to disabuse ourselves of this notion that a referendum must always be contested between an orange and the banana. Okay. That is what your editors need to understand, Trevor. And that's what
you know, I think, Trevor,
yes.
The favor you would have done to Cheriot is to tell him that to vote by secret ballot.
That's what he's doing.
Or you'd have told him to text you his answer then, on SMS, because it looks like there's something he wants to say, but he really doesn't.
He doesn't want to say it out loud. But what do you think, Wamatangi?
But I think the approach he's taken towards those last few lines is good, is progressive. If precisely what he means is, and I believe that's what he means, that this is a good opportunity to look at these proposals, and I would be standing with that, Trevor.
Yeah.
But the only departure I would have with what Senator Cheriot has said is that I would be of a resolute mind that this is a good beginning point, that we have now content, like I said earlier, to discuss. That issues and matters that have hitherto withheld us from making progress with the constitution that we gave ourselves in 2010 have now been brought to fore. That they're on the table now, we can discuss and we can remove and add and agree that this is a better way forward. And so, if also be asked, do we have a good starting point? Do we have a way forward? I would answer to the affirmative, yes, that we have a good way forward. But it is important to ensure, Trevor, that moving on, that the system, the process that will see these proposals being subjected to the correct forms, the right people. When right people, I mean especially formally constituted bodies, such that the views would not only be what we would call a distillation of all the thoughts, the ideas that were given to then that group, in the BBI, and what they distilled as what they would call the final content, that it should not be only what will find its way to what questions we'll be asking when it comes to the referendum. I said earlier that I believe that, for example, Parliament has got a major role to play in this. Yeah. They should be able to be given an opportunity to give their views, such that some of those issues, like what Senator Cheruiyot is saying, are brought out, that indeed even members of the judiciary can make a proposal or their proposals as part of their considerations of what now is called the distilled document or the final proposals. And I believe that way, among its other views, that we'll be able to have good content that can see us having a general election that will take us one level higher on the pedestal of good governance, on better promises to our people, and then even more so, giving our people more hope and ensuring that then what we have had earlier before, and this is the part that I solely agree with the background of this document, that we have to move away from the kind of politics we have had earlier, whereby at the end of the day, it is a blood sport. It's a blood sport, Trevor, all the time. That when we go to our elections, it is either Cheruiyot is there or he's not. And I only get to win when he loses. Now, that is one of the issues that I believe that this document is able to address. And for that matter, I'll be solely behind this process, and I will support it to ensure that at the end of the day, all factors are held constant, that we are going to have a document that then we can be able to take to the people and proposals that can see a better Kenya for the future. Absolutely. One would not be withheld from voting no to the document if the process now from here onwards to the end is not what it has been promised to be, a good, open, transparent, democratic process where all views are finally going to be to upheld. But I believe that's the spirit.
Yeah, very briefly, because we ran out of time.
I'll give it support. Thank you, Trevor.
Yeah. All right, so let's bring in Dr. Alwale on this. You had mentioned a no, strong
Yes,
no.
I had mentioned my no, and now that we have discussed for this length, I think there is reason for me to justify that. One, we should vote no because the procedure of amending the Constitution is provided for in Constitution 210. It does not include the President and his friend and friends initiating the process. It is either parliamentary or popular initiative. Two, there is an attempt to kill. If we vote yes, we should vote no because there is an attempt to kill the independence of the judiciary. The President wants to introduce a prefect in the judiciary in the name of an ombudsman. It should be resisted. We should vote no because there is an attempt to create an imperial president who will, for all intents and purposes, be above the law. He can fire and hire everybody, including the boy who takes care of my bulls in Marinya. Then we should vote no because the drafters appear to have been angry with the deputy president, openly angry with the deputy president, so that now they have made the office of the deputy president to mean like it's nothing else. Ruto is not going to be the permanent occupant of the office of the deputy president. And finally, but not least, what has been proposed, 90% in that document can be implemented either by line ministries or through primary or secondary legislation by parliament. It doesn't require a referendum. Thank you very much.
All right, and that's where we have to leave it for now. So you said you vote no. All right, that's where we have to leave it for now. Kimani Wamatangi, Senator Kiambu, Aaron Cheruiyot, Senator Kericho, thank you so much for making time. And Dr. Boni Halwale, former Senator Kakamega, Asante Sana, and Professor Jacqueline Oduol, nominated Member of Parliament. This is a discussion that is now open to the entire country. All views are welcome. Nobody has the right answer or the wrong answer. It is a discussion for all the millions of Kenyans who want to take on this discussion. So nobody's insisting that something has to happen in any way, all right? It's all in your decision. Read the document, make your own decisions, your informed choices as a person and as an individual. That's where we leave it for now. My name is Trevor Ombeja. We'll see you again in the next few hours. Yeah, then we'll talk about the BBI still, all right? And a bit of news. See you a bit.